I'd like to bring this meeting to order. The Village of Villa Park Board of Trustees regular meeting, December 11th, 2023. Clerk Konecki, please call the roll.
Trustee Alfano.
Here.
Trustee Cordova.
Here.
Trustee Corkery.
Here.
Trustee Kozar.
Here.
Trustee Kumar.
Here.
Trustee Patrick.
Here.
Here.
President Kazone.
And we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together this evening. May we have meaningful discussions that will help us to assist our village in these trying times. Help us to make the decisions that will affect the staff, directors, and the residents of Villa Park. Guide us through the challenges we face, and may we approach each other with respect and kindness as one group. In your name, amen. Okay, item 3 is amendments to the agenda. Do we have any amendments proposed? Okay, item 4, public comments on agenda items. Clerk Konecki, anyone signed up?
Yes, Pat Hubbard regarding 9A.
Good evening. Oh, I got to turn it on?
Yes,
It's on? Okay. I'm Pat Hubbard, and I'm the Library Board President. And I'm here to speak on 9A, which is the ordinance for adopting a budget. And I would like to request the Village Board to table the tax levy ordinance to next week's board meeting to allow the finance director to review the library's tax levy numbers. The numbers don't make sense to us because last year's numbers are the same as this year's, so we know something needs updating from last year. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Maybe. No. Maybe's liquor. Okay, Clerk Konecki, anyone else?
No.
Okay, any other comments on agenda items? Okay, item 5 is public comments on non-agenda items. Anyone signed up? Do we have anyone in the audience? Non-agenda items. Okay, item 6, proclamations and presentations. We have none. Okay. Item 7 is our consent agenda. A is approval of minutes from November 27th, 2023, public hearing and the Village Board of Trustees meeting. Item B is the bill listing from the weeks of November 27th, 2023 and December 4th, 2023 for a total amount of $4,761,103.96. And item C is a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the Village of Villa Park and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 31 AFL-CIO, Local 964, in order to compensate eligible employees holding commercial driver's licenses and endorsements. And I'll turn this to Manager Harline for item C.
The proposed memorandum with the Local 964 would give a particular stipend or one-time payment each year to Class A CDL holders or those with a tanker endorsements, as those are things that are particularly necessary for operation. This would either be incorporated into the next collective bargaining agreement or would likely not survive the MOU. It could also be superseded by there's a opener in the current collective bargaining agreement to look for a reclassification of people based on other standards that they might have in their job.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion for consent agenda? Trustee Corkery, do we have a second? Trustee Kumar? Okay. Clerk Greinecke, please.
Trustee Patrick,
Yes.
trustee Cordova,
Yes.
trustee Alfano,
Yes.
trustee Kozar,
Yes.
trustee Corkery.
Yes.
Trustee Kumar,
Yes.
President Kaselton.
Yes. Item 8 is an appointment to the commission. It's the appointment of Joseph D. Tomaso as commission member of the Traffic and Safety Commission for a term from appointment today to April 30th, 2026. And we have a motion for the appointment. Trustee Kozar,
I'll make that motion.
do we have a second? Trustee Patrick?
I'd like to make that second.
Okay, questions, comments? Okay, Clerk Greinecke, please.
Trustee Cordova,
Yes.
trustee Kumar,
Yes.
trustee Alfano,
Yes.
trustee Kozar,
Yes.
trustee Corkery,
Yes.
trustee Patrick.
Yes.
President Kaselton.
Yes. So we have a new commissioner. Thank you. Item 9A is the first reading of an ordinance to be codified. It's an ordinance adopting a budget for the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, for all corporate purposes in lieu of annual appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2024, and ending December 31st, 2024. Manager Harline.
The annual budget is being presented still in draft form for discussion at the meeting on December 11th. Based on the discussion at that meeting, a final draft will be brought forward for the board on December 18th for adoption as our financial plan for expenses and revenues in the year beginning January 1, 2024, and ending December 31, 2024. The budget is balanced and could be adopted at the meeting on December 11th, but the board may wish to review all the changes from the draft to fully evaluate before budget adoption, and any other questions, comments, or changes that you might want to make between now and the 18th.
Okay.
A lengthy memo went out describing the differences between the version that was published for the public hearing and the current version. So,
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any comments or questions on the budget? Trustee Kozar.
So this is a first reading, so we wouldn't vote on it anyway, on the budget. So to kind of address your comment there.
It should be 11B, was my mistake.
Sure.
The ordinance levy taxes.
Okay,
So that
So not for the budget.
to what I said, not
right,
Got it.
no problem.
Okay.
but
Yeah,
we
and-
probably wouldn't want to adopt the budget
Yeah,
if we
correct.
don't know what, so.
Yeah, and typically we don't, typically it's a first reading here, gives the public
Yeah.
a chance to see it. So if there's no other comments or questions, just,
It'll be posted. It's posted now. Is that correct?
The budget?
Yeah.
It was posted
A
on
couple weeks ago.
November 7th or
After
something.
after that larger meeting, right? Okay.
Yeah, the first version, so there's and the updated version is part of this packet as well.
okay.
The easiest thing, if you want to get a quick view of the budget, is to look at basically what's called page 1 and 2, and that gives you a pretty good view of where we are in terms of the final, of the overall budget. And one of the things that you'll see different in the next version is that on page, on the page 82 of the entire packet, in that far right column, there should be, with the exception of the text, the TIF 5, there shouldn't be any red. So we were going to fix the items in the wastewater, the street improvements, and the stormwater buyout, and then swimming pool would be if we want to transfer some more money from the general fund. But those funds should eventually end up, and I've already discussed with Mike Guerra the things that will make that occur for street improvements, stormwater buyout, and wastewater funds. So those are all going to be fine. But that is the quickest way to see the overall, summary of the budget. And that's sort of what we'll be presenting you in, monthly statements too. That'll give you a summary. If you notice that one other comment I'll make is on page 82 of the 392 page entire packet, just below on the projected fund balance available in the general fund, there's a number underneath of 124, and that's that's the number of days of fund balance on hand, includes working cash, that we propose will be on hand at the end of 2024, on December 31st, 2024. We began this year with $13,830,422. We project that by the end of, on December 31st of this year, we'll be at about 222 days, but we anticipate spending some of that down to cover the general fund costs for the rec center and for the Lufkin Park, as well as a couple of other projects that the couple of other projects where there are transfers that we had budgeted for and not gotten around to. So the fund balance ending the end of 2024 is acceptable, and that's probably more than I intended to say tonight. But I think those are important things for you to understand in terms of the general overview of the budget.
Okay, thanks. Did want to mention, though, our attorney mentioned this here, this is not an ordinance to be codified. It was just put in here because it's here for a first reading. So this would just be a resolution then, correct, when it comes?
No, it's done via an ordinance.
Okay.
It's just that the, the title on the agenda as identified in the village code only has a component for first reading on ordinances to be
Okay.
codified. So it was just put in this place on the agenda so that you could consider it for first reading only, just with the notification to the village board that it will not be in the village code. This is not
Okay.
an ordinance that will be codified.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Alfano?
I did have a question, Manager Harline, just because I'm not sure I caught it. How many days did you say that we would have at the end of 2024? You
It's
said it was on page 82,
124.
124, okay.
So if you look at that page 82, and at the top line, you say general fund, the beginning number is the same number at the end, projected at the end of 2023,
Got it, yeah.
then budgeted revenue, budgeted expenditures, the difference between those, and then the final number is 10,921,381, and just below that's the 124. So for future reference, that's these two pages are probably the most important to understand in the budget.
Thank you.
Trustee Kumar?
And generally, what is the acceptable number of reserve days for a village to hold to be safe and secure? Is it 99?
At least 90.
At least 90?
It's 3 months, basically.
I just want to put it out there.
Okay, any other questions on the budget? Okay, we'll move on to 9B, is an ordinance approving various amendments to Chapter 3 of the Villa Park Municipal Code related to the number, kind, and classification of liquor licenses and other related regulations. Major Hotline.
The ordinance presented for first reading and authorizes various amendments to the Villa Park Liquor Code consistent with a prior board discussion, historical village practice, and Illinois law. This ordinance would eliminate 4 current classes and would establish one new class for a banquet license. And then there are a couple other minor changes, one of them being to match state code. It would it would no longer prohibit people who are not U.S. citizens from obtaining a liquor license.
Correct. Yeah, the state law was changed several years ago, and we did not change the village ordinance on that. Okay. Trustee Patrick?
Thank you. Since there's amendments being made and changed here, I think more or less I have a request, and this would probably come from village attorney or possibly the village manager, but I'd like to see maybe in a memo form like an analysis of Illinois state law regarding liquor licenses and how that compares to what our liquor code is and how it's consistent with that. I'd just like to see the breakdown and the differences between the two.
Yeah. That's what we can do, but we pretty much mirror the state code.
Are
Attorney
you
Wolf,
talking,
want to
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Just the village as a non-home rule municipality can't deviate from the state statute with respect to liquor licenses. You have the authority to regulate and establish the different license classifications and numbers, but with respect to other regulations that are in your code will be consistent with state law.
Trustee Kozar.
I'm going to have to differ with you on that, because I've been through the code, and there's a number of different areas where Villa Park is more restrictive than the state code. So I think that's what Trustee Patrick was saying, where are those differences? They're definitely worth looking at. I mean, I can give you a few examples if you want, but our code definitely is different from the state code. It's definitely more restrictive. And tonight is a case in point, just by the fact that Illinois State Code got updated many years ago, and we're just now fixing it. We're just now catching up to it. There's a number of other things in our ordinance that is the same way.
Right, but at the time that that those provisions were drafted, they were consistent with state law. We would still be obligated to follow state law if there were any lingering inconsistencies with state law because of any amendments to state law or changes. Those amendments would be effective upon the village, but
Right. I mean, I'm not suggesting otherwise. Of course, we have to follow the state law where it's appropriate. But anytime a state has a law, the lower form of government, be it the county, the municipality, can be more restrictive than the state. Not less restrictive, but more restrictive. And that's what we find ourselves here in Villa Park, is on many things, we're either outdated, which by default would have to go to the state statute, or we are more restrictive than what the state statute allows. So I too would like to see a breakdown. Where are we more restrictive and what are they? And then we can have discussion on, is it necessary? Is there a reason that Villa Park is more restrictive than anywhere else in the state of Illinois? Or the state of Illinois as a
Oh, we
whole?
can,
and then, yeah, I mean, that request for the work, comes from the manager
village
and the
manager,
board,
right.
and, yeah, absolutely, to do the analysis.
So should we do a consensus and see if that analysis is something that we can do?
I don't know if we need a consensus, but I think, I can talk to the village manager and the village attorney and see what that would involve. And then come back when, if it's a reasonable, easy fix, we can just do it. If it's going to be quite involved, then we can bring it back to the board for consensus.
And if there are various items or regulations that specific board members have specific concerns on, it might be efficient to notify the village manager of those specific regulations, and then the review can be targeted to those as well.
Yeah, and before we did, a comprehensive kind of, I would prefer to have a, motion for consensus, because that's a pretty lengthy, that could be a pretty lengthy a review, but, I mean, we'll certainly do it. I don't know that we want to, I guess my question would be, this is just first reading. Is the expectation that we have this comprehensive review done in 2 days to get it in the next agenda, or because that would hold up the creation of the license for banquets, which I think there are a couple of, I think there's at least one business that's looking to try and get such a license.
Yeah, I think we passed the ordinance, and then, because that's going to take a while to do a review like that, which, we can discuss this with our attorney and see what time frame would be required on that. I'd hate to see this delay the change on the ordinance up until then. Trustee Patrick.
Thank you. I'm not asking to delay an ordinance,
Yeah.
not at all. I'm just looking for an analysis, a comparative analysis that shows where we are more restrictive than state regulations or state law, which if you're saying that takes a considerable amount of time and effort, I think that is a worthy cause to investigate, especially for future endeavors. But I think that is something that we should consider moving forward, is to see exactly where we're at and how we stand with the state regulations.
Trustee Kumar.
I think we've started a process of cleaning up a lot of our ordinances in different spaces, and I have seen them come through in the past couple of years. I think that Trustee Patrick's actual statement is just that to continue the process in a proper manner, and this will be our next step and our next cleanup of sorts. And so I think it's not meant to put this ordinance, make it later or move it somewhere else. I think you can give sufficient time to do a proper job of that analysis, but continue moving forward with the ordinances we need to change.
This is a recommendation, of course, from the Liquor Commission. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Trustee Kozar.
So in light of our committee of the whole conversation that we had at 6 o'clock, I think this would be a great opportunity to empower our commission and give an assignment to our commission, which in this case would be the Liquor Commission, to have them review that. And then they can come back to us and explain their findings.
That can be done.
yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, move on to item 10A. It's the second reading of an ordinance to be codified. It's an ordinance amending Article 3 of Chapter 2 of the Villa Park Municipal Code, Section 2-308, to require a form of paid leave for village employees. Manager Harline.
This ordinance amends Article 3, Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code of Village Villa Park by adding a new Section 2-308, paid leave required for village employees. This ordinance is presented for the second reading and vote. Staff recommends approval of this ordinance at this meeting, and we have with us Assistant Village Manager Suzanne McVeigh, who did 99% of the work on this, and, well, I mean, I guess there are some other people that worked with you, but who did the work on this ordinance, and can kind of give you a rundown. She handed out a memo just before the meeting, which we'll incorporate into the record, but it fleshes out who would and would not be eligible for paid leave under our proposal. This would not affect, as state law specifies, anyone who's represented by a collective bargaining agreement with a valid collective bargaining agreement.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion for the ordinance? Trustee Kumar, we have a second? Trustee Corkery? Okay, questions or comments on the ordinance? Trustee Kumar.
Thank you, Susan, for getting to it clearly and quickly and concisely and straightening out what we see here. That's it.
Yeah.
Trustee Cordova.
Yeah, I asked for this. I appreciate you taking this time. It looks like you put a lot of work in there. My only question was, well, it wasn't a question, it was an understanding of that 90 days. Lifeguard comes in, they work, by the time they hit that 90 days, they're probably back at school or the pools are closed, correct? Okay. Was there anything in here, and this has to do with paid time leave or paid leave? Can you give me a scenario where we'd say no to a lifeguard or a referee or summer camp if they were sick or something like that? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I could defer to Director Gola, but I think with all of our seasonal and temporary, we're very mindful, we schedule around, if they have something going on, typically they're off work that day. They just wouldn't be a paid day. But certainly people get sick in the summer and, they have those days off. I think, when you give that paid leave, then it certainly can be more challenging than sort of those one-off circumstances. A lot of times when you have temporary employees, they may take this day off. They'll, be inclined to find somebody to cover their shift. And then, they may work later in the week. So we're very flexible with our temporary and seasonal employees.
Awesome. Thank you again for putting that together.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Clerk Kornacki, please.
Okay, Trustee Patrick,
Yes.
Trustee Alfano,
Yes.
Trustee Cordova?
Yes.
Trustee Corkery?
Yes.
Trustee Kozar?
Yes.
Trustee Kumar?
Yes.
President Kazone?
Yes. Okay, move to item 11, ordinances. Item A is an ordinance declaring property owned by the Village of Villa Park as surplus and authorizing the sale by public auction. Manager Harline.
This ordinance will allow staff to sell surplus vehicles and equipment all at public auction that are no longer useful as provided by state law 65 ILCS 5/11-76-4. The list of items for auction includes 9 vehicles that have been already replaced or retired, 2 tractors from parks, and 1 office printer that is no longer utilized. Staff will prepare these items for auction over the next several months. Staff recommends approval of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion for the ordinance? Trustee Kozar,
I'll make the motion.
we have a second? Trustee Corkery, any questions or comments? Trustee Kozar.
Do we use like a third party to do that auction? I mean, I know it's like an auctioneer, but are we auctioning it, or is it like a company that presents it online and runs an auction like an eBay kind of situation?
I'll leave that to Director Guerra. He's a little bit more familiar with the process than I am, so. He's a lot more.
Correct me, because he's done this previously. We usually use a third party to do it, but we also look into online sources if needed. There's a few sanctions, but historically, we've used a third party to auction them off on our behalf.
So if like I was in the market for a tractor
Or a printer.
or a printer, right?
Yes, correct. It would be available to all public through
Okay.
that.
So before that goes to auction, can we announce that, maybe at a board meeting or put it up on our website?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, it is in our best interest to get as many people in.
Yeah,
At the
no, I
end.
don't disagree. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering how we do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, Clerk Kornecki, please.
Okay, Trustee Alfano?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Corkery?
Yes.
Trustee Kozar?
Yes.
Trustee Kumar?
Yes.
Trustee Cordova?
Yes.
President Kazone?
Yes. Okay, item 11B is an ordinance levying taxes for the fiscal year of the Village of Villa Park commencing on the first day of January, and this should be 2024, and ending the 31st day of December 2020. Is that correct? Is that correct? It is, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Rate for property taxes levied for the property value assessed as of December 31, 2023. Collection of the revenue will be in calendar year 2024. This is the ordinance that the library has asked us to postpone for final decision. I've gone to the library, talked to the board members. There is concern. Their desire was to get a 4.9% increase. There are a number of different factors that we have to take into consideration. Among them are the uncapped parts of our things that are funded by property tax, which includes the fire and police pension. So the calculation right now does not arrive with the number that the library was counting on. So we're trying to come up with a solution, whether it's reviewing to make sure we're using the right tax numbers. And it seems like this would be easier than this, but I've gone over this with Director Howard and with the library board, and theirs is complicated, but when you add in the 6 or 7 different places where our property tax goes, either directly and uncapped, or sometimes we have choices as to where we put it if it's capped, and variety. So we have an estimate that is seems to meet our needs, but does not meet the library's needs. And Chuck Howard is here, our finance director, if you would like to be further educated and or confused.
Okay. Trustee Kumar.
I would like some further education and am confused. So,
Okay, well,
honestly, I think it is important to meet also the library's criteria for their budget. And if it's a timing issue in resolving the situation at hand, I'm more than willing to give them that extra week to get that sorted out.
okay, well, first we have to have a motion.
Yeah.
A motion.
Trustee Kozar.
So I'll make the motion.
Okay, Okay, for the ordinance?
Table.
for the ordinance, and then.
Okay, do we have a second? Trustee Cordova?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, now, trustee Kozar.
So now that it's on the table, I'd like to make a motion to postpone it for a week, to table it for a date certain, which would be the 17th. And then-
18th.
I'm sorry, the 18th. Unless there is, that's my motion, but in dialogue, in conversation, if Manager Harline has a reason why it shouldn't be postponed, I'd like to hear that.
Okay, do we have a second on the motion to table the ordinance?
I will second.
Trustee Cordova?
Yes.
Okay. Questions or comments?
No, my question was, I would like to hear what Chuck says is the issue at hand here.
Yes, and thank you very much for the discussion here on the levy. There are two things that we get constrained by in the levy, and I've talked to some of you about those. One is we want to stay within the CPI or our PTEL limitations at the 5%, and the county also caps some of those items in our levy and most of them are operating operations both at the village level and the library level. Things that are not capped, as Manager Harline said, police and fire pensions, and some of the other things, debt service. And within that realm, we're trying to stay within 5%. Overall, we've had certainly some increases, 10% or so, I think, in police and fire pension, and some things in debt service that are going to go up. So we're trying to, and we've had an increase because certainly assessments have gone up, but to stay within the 5% is our goal. There's some component things. I didn't get a chance to talk with Library 1-on-1. I think it would be feasible to make sure that even if things don't change, we all have an understanding of exactly why they cannot. So we'd like to, and I think I'd be remiss in not allowing them the time to talk with me one-on-one to understand where we are.
Okay. Any other questions? Trustee Kozar?
Am I right that the library is looking for approximately 100,000 out of that?
That's the difference between what is proposed in the budget and the structure we have and what is in their requested budget, yes.
Excuse me.
Yes. Yes, and they have a couple debt issuances at the library where they're in a financial position where they can abate some of those items. So I guess the decision would be whether we would continue with that position given what the circumstances are.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, trustee.
So, to some degree, I'm putting you on the spot, but you don't have to necessarily answer this now. I know
All right.
we talked on Saturday about this. Is there an avenue where we can, as a village, not increase our taxes generally
Oh,
and
yeah, and-
still be able to fund critical items, but, maybe have to sharpen our pencils even more?
Well, we talked about those probably earlier in our budget discussion. If we don't do it this way, then it's going to come from a different place. We talked about how many days we have in the general fund of expenses covered. That certainly would be affected if we decided to hold to that exact number from last year of what we did levy. That is something that is a challenge because we're held in PTEL at 5%. We know CPI is more than that, it's 6.5%, but we can't levy to that. If we would forego it for this year, again, we're going to be faced with items of cost that are increasing at the CPI levels. And we are going to really have to do some things probably as these costs come in to affect a greater change than what we are projecting in our budget discussion. So I would be mindful of doing that in this period of increasing costs. And when costs stabilize, perhaps we have a discussion to hold a number in mind as we get to a different levy year. But it would be a challenge in that regard, and I'd be wrong to not state that.
Trustee Kozar?
Just for the record, and I would like to continue our conversation from Saturday, it's my intention not to raise property taxes this year for everybody. I think we need a break from raising property taxes 5% every year. I know that would have a direct impact on the library. I voted against raising property taxes last year as well. I think that we need to do that and realize that we can live as a village without having to raise our property taxes every year and putting that on the burden of the homeowners in Villa Park. There are alternate sources of revenue, and we just have to work from day one to try to do that. From January 1st, we have to work to try not to raise our property taxes. I think that's important, and I think it will also help Villa Park to stand apart. That Villa Park is known for having reasonable property taxes, not raising property taxes every year, and not always going in the pocket of the homeowner for that. So that's just my position on there. And, maybe during the week, we can talk at more length about, and continue our conversation from Saturday. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just really quickly, just keep in mind, if you're looking at the division of what the property tax that the village collects goes to. The largest chunk is a police pension, firefighter's pension, and the second column for firefighter's pension. And then there is a $195,144 that goes to the corporate fund. There's about $350 that goes to Parks and Recreation. So the increase year to year it's basically capturing to a large extent the successful growth that you guys have helped. It's not increasing the tax rate. It is capturing the fruits of your labor with growth of property value, including new construction. We had 11 new homes built in Villa Park this year. We brought online the new Casey's, and these things are, to not realize the fruits of those, successful economic development efforts would, $195,000 to the corporate fund is pretty close to the amount of money it costs to add the additional officer this year. Not, that's not how that works one to one. But the $550,000. So after abatements, it's estimated around $526,000. So I just want to keep this in perspective. So.
Okay, thanks.
Not saying it's. I'm just want to make sure that we know that we're not talking about raising people's property tax rate.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, Clerk Nicky, roll call on the motion to table ordinance 11A until our next meeting, December 18th.
Okay. Trustee Corkery?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Cordova?
Yes.
Trustee Kumar?
Yes.
Trustee Kozar?
Yes.
Trustee Alfano?
Yes.
President Kazone?
Yes. Since we are tabling 11A, items 11C, D, 11B, items C, D, and E should also be tabled because those all relate to item 11B. So I'd like to propose someone to make a motion to tables 11C, D, and E until December 18th.
Mr. President.
Trustee Alfano.
I will make that motion, Mr. President.
Okay, a second on that? Trustee Corkery? Okay, any questions or comments on that? Okay, Clerk Kornicki, please.
Trustee Kumar?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Cordova?
Yes.
Trustee Alfano?
Yes.
Trustee Kozar?
Yes.
Trustee Corkery?
Yes.
President Kazone?
Yes. Okay, so we'll bring all that back on the 18th. Okay, move on to item 12A is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental grant agreement with the State of Illinois Department of Commerce and Opportunity, or DCEO, for the grant funding for construction of stormwater improvements. Manager Harline.
The 2019 State of Illinois Capital Bill included an appropriation in the amount of $288,500 to the Village of Villa Park for stormwater improvements. Staff submitted an application to use this grant funding for various stormwater improvements in the village. After reviewing and processing the application, the DCEO is now formally awarded the grant funding to the village. An agreement between the village and DCEO is necessary in order to formally accept the grant award and receive the funding. Staff recommends approval of the resolution authorizing the village president to enter into an agreement to receive the funds for stormwater improvements in the amount of $288,500.
Right, thank you. Do we have a motion? Trustee Patrick?
Mr. President, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second? Trustee Alfano?
I will
Questions or comments? I just got one quick question. Which project are we going to plan on using this on?
Thank you, Your Honor. We're looking at 3 primary projects. One of them was a project that we had promised with the Maple area project of extending a sewer. We kind of stubbed it and carrying it on, used the funds. We've struggled a little bit because the good part is I think this application was submitted as part of a capital grant or the capital plan several years ago, was to help with the backlog of backyard drainage projects. We've cut that down a little bit. And so we're looking at probably installing an extension on the storm sewer on Ridge over in Leakin Westmore area because we have several homes in that area that have backyard flooding issues. However, we have no storm sewer available to drain it. So we're looking at extending it in that location to provide more connection points. And then we're evaluating the third location, whether it's the drainage ditch off of North. If you extend Ellsworth through, that ties into North Avenue in the state system is pretty overgrown. Silted in, it doesn't convey water well, and we've had some flooding issues on the backside on Ellsworth. Or looking at maybe incorporating some of the funding towards Lions Rec Center if possible. There's a lot of restrictions, and so we're evaluating that as the third and fourth option.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Clerk, Trustee Kumar?
Yeah, I'm just happy to see that we are moving towards improving people's basement flooding, backyard flooding, and so on in Villa Park. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Clerk Kornacki, please.
Okay, Trustee Kozar,
Yes.
Trustee Kumar,
Yes.
Trustee Alfano,
Yes.
Trustee Cordova,
Yes.
Trustee Corkery,
Yes.
Trustee Patrick,
Yes.
President Casone.
Yes. Item 12B is a resolution to approve and authorize the execution of an order form and 5-year agreement with Flock Group, Inc. for the installation and maintenance of additional license plate reader cameras in a total amount of $87,500. Manager Harline.
This resolution waived the formal bidding process to approve the order form and 5-year agreement with Flock Group, Inc. for the purchase and maintenance of 7 Flock LPR cameras. Staff recommends, and the village board pass this resolution authorizing signing of this agreement. This is a pretty important part of the police department's enforcement, and it has been very successful in they're helping catch and work with other departments in catching stolen vehicles and such. And Chief Rivas is here if you wanted to get an additional understanding of how valuable this piece of equipment is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion? Trustee Patrick?
Mr. President, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, second. Trustee Kozar?
Second.
Questions or comments? Trustee Patrick?
I do, just to kind of reiterate what the village manager was saying, this type of equipment is very essential in public safety. And I know that $87,000 does seem like a lot of money for 7 cameras, but the benefit will, I think, far outweigh the cost. If we could have Chief Rivas explain what a Flock camera is and its capabilities and how that helps our first responders.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. The first generation that we had was the license plate readers you see on some squad cars in some towns as well as on some posts. We would just record just the license plate. And then they would, it's basically a character picture that would then be compared to a database with the state police. The Flock camera takes a little bit further. It'll do the license plate reading portion. It'll also give you the make and model of the car and color. So if you're looking, let's say, for a gray Toyota RAV4, let's say, you can put it in the database, and it'll show you all the ones and the cameras you're looking for. It is invaluable in everything that we do in law enforcement, whether it's tracking someone or going after some of the bad people that we deal with here in town.
Thank you.
Trustee Kumar?
So this is a very effective tool to, in the case of auto theft, I would presume, for you guys to use.
It's one of the most important tools that we use, not just for auto theft, stolen cars, violent crimes. Anytime something could happen in our town, if we get a vehicle description and a possible plate, we can enter those things into the system, as well as we're looking for, let's say, a suspect car, we can put that in, and it'll trigger, and it's not just in our town, but in many communities have the same cameras. And so we're networked into those cameras as well, not only in our state and county, but also nationally.
Go ahead.
And so the more towns that get involved, the more your networking capability will go up, and it'll be better overall for law enforcement as a total.
Oh, absolutely. We're already networking better than we ever have in law enforcement. So the amount of work that we do from town to town, it's paying off dividends in the towns, in the regions, in the county, and the state. We all work very well together with Chicago PD, with the state police, and as well as a lot of the departments in our area.
Any other questions? Clerk Kornecki, please.
Okay,
Thanks, Chief.
Trustee Cordova?
Yes.
Trustee Corkery?
No.
Trustee Kumar?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Alfano?
Yes.
Trustee Kozar?
Yes.
President Casone?
Yes. Okay, item 12C is a resolution approving and authorizing a 5-year purchase agreement with Axon Enterprise, Inc. for the purchase of 14 Axon Fleet in-car video solution cameras and supporting information, services, training, and warranties in a total amount of $216,838.80. Manager Harline.
This is a resolution, not an ordinance, asking the village board waive the formal bidding process and pass this resolution approving the agreed agreement for the purchase of 14 Axon Fleet mobile camera required equipment installation warranty from Axon Enterprises. This agreement, staff recommends that the board approve this resolution authorizing the village manager to sign this agreement. I would also add that this is, one of the reasons we're working with Axon on this is because that's the same company that we purchase our body cameras from now. And although the previous in-car cameras worked fairly well, this would allow us to integrate all of our cameras together, and the body cameras of the other company did not work well. So this $216,000 contract, like the contract before that, is spread over 4 years, or 5 years. So it's about $43,400 a year, and it's a very it's a good system, and will allow. And I probably should stop there because I can't explain it nearly as well as Chief Rivas can. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion for the resolution? Trustee Patrick?
Mr. President, I'd like to make that motion.
We have a second. Trustee Kozar?
I'll second.
Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, Clerk Kornecki, please.
Okay, Trustee Alfano?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Corkery?
Yes.
Trustee Kozar?
Yes.
Trustee Kumar?
Yes.
Trustee Cordova?
Yes.
President Casone?
Yes. Item 12D is a resolution approving an increased purchase cost in the amount of $6,792 for the purchase of a Pierce Impel engine for the fire department for the Village of Villa Park, resulting in a total purchase amount of $704,692. Manager Harline.
This resolution will allow the addition of safety equipment that replaces the equipment originally proposed but no longer available. Staff recommends approval of this resolution to accept the additional costs of $6,792,000 for the purchase of a Pierce Impel engine and authorizing the village manager and enter into that agreement. The total purchase cost will now be $704,692. This was purchased through a cooperative purchasing agreement, and although within my authority, I felt that for the purpose of visibility, I wanted you guys to be up to date in the fact that we are purchasing a piece of equipment that's this expensive. I'd like to bring it before you. We hope to be able to bring the vehicle before you sometime early next year. The original ordinance was, I believe, it's in the memo, but January of 21, I believe, was when we originally.
January 22, we purchased it.
January 22, that's right. We're going into 24. It's a 2-year, I just can't, yeah. Sorry.
Time flies.
Yeah, January 22, 24.
Okay. Is Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion for the ordinance? Trustee Patrick?
Mr. President, I'd like to make that motion.
For the resolution, I'm sorry. Do we have a second? Trustee Alfano? Okay, questions or comments? Okay, seeing none.
I have-
Oh, go ahead.
What does this do? I mean, I Googled it, I read through it, I know a lot of the pieces and apparatus that go on the trucks themselves are from Pierce, but what does this piece do? It's just curiosity.
The additional safety equipment
Yeah.
that we purchased, it's threefold. Some of the lighting, emergency lighting, is not available anymore, so we had to pick other lighting that was a little bit more money. We did add some additional perimeter lighting, which lights the entire rig when you're driving, especially when we have a lot of new, young drivers. Driving a 40-foot piece of equipment down a dark street, it helps us. The biggest cost, around $3,500, was something Fleet wanted, was a heat shield put in. And the reason why we have a heat shield in this one and not the others is because they keep replacing a valve that freezes in winter, because we have to drive down to the other station and it has to sit outside while we're training. And it's a part that costs about $1,000. So they replace one every year. So we figured, let's try getting this heat shield in there to prevent that from freezing, because we live in Chicago and it's going to sit outside for a long time. And then the other part was we added an interior cabinet so we can secure our ballistic safety equipment. So it's not flying around the rig. We want everything in a compartment for safety reasons. And since it's a new program that we have, we needed a place to put it. We don't have it on the other engines, but we'll make do and try to see how it's fabricated, and hopefully we can fabricate something with our garage on this.
Amazing, thank you.
So,
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? Okay.
thank you.
Clerk Konecki, please call roll on this one.
Okay, trustee Cordova,
Yes.
trustee Alfano,
Yes.
trustee Kozar,
Yes.
trustee Corkery,
Yes.
trustee Kumar,
Yes.
trustee Patrick,
Yes.
President Kazone.
Yes. Okay, item 13 is unfinished business. I believe we have no unfinished business. Item 14A is a discussion about the progress of Hawthorne Development Corporation, their Ecotero apartment project by the train station. We had put this on the agenda to discuss a redevelopment agreement. Hawthorne representatives decided not to come tonight, so we can, anyone has any questions regarding the current status of the project? We have Director McLaughlin is here if you'd like to ask him any questions. Trustee Patrick.
Yes, I would like for Director McLaughlin to give us a status of the project.
Chief, would you get the director back here?
Good evening. So yes, currently staff with village attorney are in review of an amended redevelopment agreement, which would be to take the first and the amended and start with a fresh one, remove and replace essentially. But we are still going back and forth on some terms in that. We have not come to final agreement on a couple of items. In addition to that, we are reviewing the construction schedule, proposed construction schedule, and the proposed pro forma, to make sure that the village board is approving something that is financially viable and could actually be built if you guys approve an amended RDA. Staff still has some concerns about that. We're asking significant questions, really diving into it, a dive that didn't happen the first go-around. And as you can see, wasn't financially viable yet, so here we are. So that's not something I'm going to put this village board in that position again. So I'm not going to recommend a new RDA until everything's buttoned up behind the scenes. So we're doing that due diligence right now. And it's a significant project, 120 million, so it takes a little bit of time to make that happen.
Okay.
In summary.
Trustee Kumar.
How has communication been consistent in recent times or inconsistent? That's my question with the discussions and the and staff working on the pro forma
Yeah,
issues
there-
and questions and so on and so forth?
Sure, there's frequent communications, but it's not all excellent communication. A lot of touch points, but not a lot of meat.
Just goes there.
So I feel as a village and as a board, we've done everything that we could with this project to help it move along. We've made certain concessions. We gave them a piece of our property in exchange, which we never got back. We had to modify that. We've talked to them a number of times. I just feel like, every time the village is asked to do something on this project, because we want it to happen, we've done what is necessary and tried to assist in every way. Now they have to come back and get some sort of amended RDA. In the event that we didn't grant an amended RDA, just hypothetically, would they still be able to get permits and build?
The short answer is no, and I would defer to Village Attorney Wolf on further explanation of why not. There's a word that we've been tossing around, but we haven't said it publicly yet, I don't think, so I don't want to do that. No, because they don't, the RDA that's current is invalid, and so they wouldn't have rights to move forward because the terms have not been met, and that's the word that I'm talking about.
So have you gotten any sort of loan commitment or a letter of maybe expectation, if not a loan commitment, from any financing source that says, if they do these 3 items, we will fund the project up to this amount?
Sure. So on a project like this, it's not like you guys are going out and buying a house and you go get a mortgage and it's done. It's what's referred to as lasagna financing, layers on top of layers on top of layers. There's not one source. So that being said, the primary source, and I'm trying not to get into the weeds because it is a confidential document, like the pro forma is not a FOIA-able document. So I don't want to give away anything that would be proprietary, right? But speaking broadly, the primary lender is HUD, and that's open knowledge. They have not submitted to HUD yet for their financing. So I don't know, but they also happen to be the largest chunk. We do have other smaller loans that are lenders that have cleared, so we have seen that, and we've also seen the cash position. But the primary we have not. And the secondary we have not as either.
So when they initially had this project, like kind of come to the table, they issued bonds through the village.
Correct.
The village is not responsible for any of that money, although it is a municipal bond and it traveled through the village as a tax-free bond. So that's still hanging out there. They've collected this money. And I think it was something like $9 million?
6.5.
6.5?
Of bond, not to be repaid. The repayment amount is closer to that.
Okay. I certainly haven't seen $6.5 million worth of work on that property.
Correct.
So without seeing that, I mean, it makes me think that they issued certain bonds and spent a couple $1 million maybe. They bought a couple buildings. They spent a couple days pushing gravel around. Maybe it was just a day of pushing gravel around. But certainly not $6.5 million worth, so it makes me think that, they've spent a little bit of money and they've basically taken this money and they're not doing anything with it. That's concerning. The fact that he's not here, the principal of the company is not here to answer questions. We had a meeting, 9 months ago, and my comment there was, I don't think he's gonna get any financing, and I think we'll be here 6 months from now in the same position that we are. We better do something now, meaning 6 months ago. And here we are 9, 10 months later, no different. We've just lost 9, 10 months of time. Number one, I want to make sure that this doesn't happen with the union.
No.
And I'm not suggesting that it is, but, you know, we're in a bad spot here. So one of the best things that we can do being in a bad spot is learn from it. Not just fix the problem that we have, but learn from it so that other development projects in the village don't go down the same path. I
Absolutely.
understand it was a different administration. It was a different attorney. I don't think our attorney would put us in that same position now, but we are where we are. So we need an amended RDA. This is a blighted.
Hawthorne needs an amended RDA.
I'm sorry, yes, right. This is a blighted property now. It didn't used to be. It was a viable property that produced some tax money because it had multi-unit properties on there that were renting and much more property tax. But now it's a blighted property. I was going through a statute with regard to blighted property, and it seems to me we meet all the elements of it being a blighted property. The statute I'm referring to is our eminent domain statute here in Illinois. So I would like that to be reviewed. I know that that bond issue that I spoke of, we have to review that.
Yes.
And make sure that we're not taking steps to, in some way, circumvent that bond repayment or make it more, maybe it's not more difficult, but to prevent it. Or that would be part of the cost of the eminent domain. So I would like to see some sort of memo that can kind of walk through that statute and see how that might apply to this particular property. I think we need all options on the table. Right now, we've got a gravel parking lot and another parking lot that should be ours, but they've chosen not to give it to us. And I think that's a viable use. So I know from just our previous conversation, that should go through the manager, and then the manager can direct that to the appropriate parties, be that your work with our village attorney and something like that. But if you could bring back something like that, I would like to start that conversation. I think it's in a TIF area too, that
It is.
expires in 2038. And part of the last redevelopment agreement would be that they would get 25% of whatever the taxes they generate from. That sound about?
So the bond repayment took 70% of the increment to pay the bonds back. That's the RDA language. The other 30% was reserved to cover any school district requests, because they have the right under state statute, any new population, give me my impact fee. So the 70% of their increment went straight to debt payment for the bond. But to follow up on your previous request, staff and the village attorney have already begun the initial research regarding the bond language and potential any other legal courses of action. It's already begun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I could, just real quickly, I agree with almost everything you say there. The only thing is, they have spent, from what they have shown us, they have spent the money. They don't have a lot to save for it. I mean, they're not sitting on it.
The 6.5 mil?
They show receipt?
But I'm not, so I just want to make sure it's not, because we have to be careful that we're not, getting, accusing, malfeasance, that sort of thing. They have not produced a project, that's clear. So they can't have spent it terribly well. Because the other thing, what Director McLaughlin has been telling you is that 70% of the increment goes towards paying down this bond, assuming at the time that we started collecting increment by now, if not, so they have a lot of stress on them as well. And we have tried to work with them. The financing got difficult. And, so I think the next steps we'll have to be pretty careful about, because we, as long as the project is viable, and there may be bond requirements that we're researching whether the bond requirements make sure that we don't in any way interfere or fail to do anything we can to make those bonds viable. Other than that, then I think all the other things, so we have to be a little bit careful that we don't act in any way precipitously, lest we be drawn into any problem with the bond. Other than that, everything I think you're saying is obvious. It's obvious that so far in the last year, what they have done to the benefit of the village is they put up fencing and lowered their piles of rubble. Nothing, but those, not only are they, probably qualify as a blighted property, but technically behind those fences, we know they're in violation of our code for, you can't have piles of rubble on a property in Villa Park. So we're, everything else, I think everything else that you're saying are things that we need to move forward with, and if we haven't already started, so.
And those, your comment about the $6.5 million that has been spent on the property already, he may absolutely have spent that, but that would be a question that I would like to ask him as he stands before us and helps to explain why they're in this predicament. But I'm unable to do that because they've chosen not to come today. You did mention something that I think is important. If they're currently under violation of our ordinances, and there are things on that property that anybody else in the village would have gotten a ticket for and been in Thursday afternoon court for, he should not get any special treatment just because, I don't know why, because it's a big project, but if everybody's being treated the same, code enforcement should be out there tomorrow writing some tickets.
So they have gone through the adjudication process and.
Ah, they have, okay.
And then a fine was levied.
Okay.
Yeah, that,
But that wouldn't be the end of it, right? If they haven't fixed it,
Right, there's,
right? It's like a per diem.
we did not go for per diem. We don't traditionally go for per diem in this community.
Okay.
It's the one-time offense, and then it goes through the process.
Okay.
So yeah, we did not apply something different to them that we wouldn't have done to anybody else either.
So then would it be time to issue them a
Now-
new violation if it hasn't been fixed?
We are past the blackout period, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Trustee Alfano.
In an RDA, do we have specific benchmarks that the developer needs to meet? Is that
Yes.
how that works?
Yep,
And then if they don't meet them, what happens?
that's called breach of contract.
Okay, and what happens when they're out of breach of contract? Is there
I will
a
defer to
fine?
Village Attorney Melissa.
What
Bowles.
typically happens? I'm not saying in our RDA, what would typically happen?
Well, what would happen would be dictated by the remedies available in the written contract.
Okay.
And that's one of the points of negotiation in this proposed amended RDA. It would clarify the village's rights in the event that the timeline in the future wasn't met.
Okay, so would it be out of line then to say, ask for fines and fees if they do not meet specific benchmarks? Is that typically how one could add, or could they add that to an RDA? Is that something that could be added to an RDA?
In some contracts, there could be liquidated damages assessed for delays that are allocated on a daily basis and calculated, but that is something that.
Okay, I'm asking because we have already lost a significant amount of sales tax revenue. We had a liquor store on this property, and we had a restaurant that was forced to close when they demolished, right? And here we are at budget time, trying to make sure that we have this balanced budget, trying to maybe not raise taxes, which would be nice to residents. And then we also have this project that has stalled. So it is kind of frustrating, and if you do go to an RDA agreement, I would like very much if you just kind of keep that in the back of your head, that those are, and I'm sure it is, but I think it does need to be said for our residents, that, these are the concerns that weigh heavy on our residents, and that's something that is, a kitchen table issue.
Yeah. So one, talking RDAs in bigger picture, part of the overall problem with putting a fee or a fine in there is that if they never come to fruition with the project, that fee or fine is just sitting out there in limbo. It's actually more painful to take away the rights of the development, because that's a significantly larger income stream to the developer.
Okay.
Because that's where we're sitting right now. They owe us $100,000 from March 1st for their building permit fee.
Okay.
If I had $800,000 of building permit revenue, that'd help with the budget.
Right.
Because they would have completed the project and we wouldn't be talking about a couple of little liquor sales, honestly.
Right.
But they never came forward. If we don't do a new RDA, rights potentially can be lost, which is a much bigger shot than it would be a $50,000 fine.
And as Director McLaughlin had said too, we don't want to approve an RDA if their pro forma is not valid. And that's kind of the biggest thing right now,
It
is
is.
trying to get those two things in line. Because if, we do an RDA, but the project is not viable at the way they're looking at it, it's, you might as well not do the RDA.
That's my opinion, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trustee Kumar.
There was already an RDA out there. It wasn't complied by. There is definitely a trust issue here with the second RDA. I'm just putting it out there. We've got to be super, super careful with whatever RDA we propose in the future and check every receipt, as we heard on that side, which I agree with. It's unfortunate, but necessary to protect us as a village.
Yeah.
And cross all your Ts and dot all your Is. That's
Yeah.
all I have to say, because it hasn't been complied with. It hasn't, we haven't seen anything come forth to make it happen. And it's very important that we protect ourselves as the Village of Villa Park.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, and that's what we're doing behind the scenes.
And that's one reason why we don't have a RDA complete yet, because with the team we have working now is going to make sure that there are both the benchmarks that you're talking about, and then the provisions to make sure that if things aren't met, that we have a way of, I guess, I don't want to say inflicting pain, but, that there is a cost.
Repercussions.
A repercussion, thank you, that's a much better word, that comes with it. And the first thing is to get something that says, this is how we'll raise money, and this is going to cover the bond and other debt that is taken on, because that's why and it's a difficult chore, and it's getting more difficult by each day, because the period of time that there is in the TIF is dwindling, and, the interest rates haven't gone down, and so there's a lot of challenge to move forward. The other thing I want to say, just brought up, the Union project has so many different aspects that, maybe that we'll see that there, and staff is in regular communication with people on that project. That is not dormant. It is, all the work is under, behind the scenes at this point, because it's just details and working out, but we are in the process of developing that RDA, and it will be written with those benchmarks and repercussions, but I doubt we'll see any, it's a different organization, and one of the things that we always attracted the city to that, the village to that project, is that the financing came along with the developer. It wasn't the developer, and then I'll go get the financing, so.
Okay.
Is that fair? That's fair to say, right?
Trustee Kozar.
I just want to thank you, Mark, you and staff, for the efforts that you've put on this. I realize that you weren't here at the inception of it. You didn't create the problem. You're stuck with cleaning up the mess.
Yep.
And I think you guys are working in the right direction for it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Absolutely.
Okay, item 15 is Village Commission reports, which we have none tonight. Item 16, the Village Clerk's report.
Just announcing the Tuesday, December 19 is a SALT meeting. That's the Seniors and Law Enforcement Together program at the Iowa Community Center. Program starts at 11. Officer Sonia Bregman has the program, and she's going to be part of the program this time. So it ought to be really interesting. Lunch will be provided by the Senior Concerns Commission, as they always do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, trustees report, we'll start on my right. Trustee Patrick.
Thank you. So basketball season in Villa Park is here. I have the privilege of being able to coach the Villa Park Junior Warriors 8th grade team, and I just wanted to give them a shout out because last week they had their first win of the season right here at Willowbrook. It was a fun game, and they played very well. The Junior Warriors basketball program is a really good program. If you have kids in grade school all the way up to 8th grade, it's considered a feeder league that feeds into the Willowbrook program. And they focus on basically the fundamentals and getting those kids prepared for trying out for the Willowbrook teams. It's a you play about close to 20 games in a season. Season ends in February, so it's a very long season, but it's a great program for the kids. So if you have kids and interested in basketball, please give the Villa Park Junior Warriors a look and go from there. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Cordova.
Nothing for me today.
Okay, Trustee Kozar. We're wrapping up our year next week, rather than waiting 2 weeks. Next week is our next meeting. And at that meeting, we're going to approve the budget and approve the levy. It's going to be an important meeting. Between now and then, anybody who's out there that is looking at the budget or has questions, reach out to either Manager Harline or any of your trustees, and we'll find time to talk to you about it. You can bring up points that maybe we haven't seen, but now's the time to get involved. Once it's passed, it's not saying that we can't have a second bite at the apple and not approve a certain expenditure or a project, which, the board always has the right to do. But setting up that budget and understanding what's in it so that there's not surprises in 9 months from now is very important. So get involved, email your trustees, and if we can help in any way, we're here to do so. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.
Great. Trustee Alfano.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everybody who came out to Joyful Traditions. It's always a good time. It was really fun to see everybody there. I wanted to thank Janet at Parks and Rec. I had the pleasure to be able to take the train ride to the North Pole. This time not as a parent with my own family, but I got to sing some carols for the families that were on board. And I had the pleasure to sing with Sophia Marino from Willowbrook High School, who recently played Ursula in The Little Mermaid. And we just had a great time there, kind of spreading some holiday cheer. And I was really welcomed by Parks and Rec, and they make that run like clockwork. So it was really nice to see that from the other side. And then I also wanted to bring residents' attention, since it is the holidays and it is starting to get colder. We do have 211 services available to us here in DuPage County. If you need to dial 211, or you can go to 211dupage.gov. And you can find resources for housing and utilities, disaster and warming centers, food pantries, places that you can find hot meals in DuPage. But it's not just if you need those types of things, but also if you need legal help, or even if you just need to know when your next board meeting might be, or how to register to vote, anything that you might need of service from DuPage County, you can go to 211, you can dial 211 or 211dupage.gov. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Kumar.
Just wanted to thank the fire department. I believe they put out a structure fire over the weekend, and thank you for all you're doing for us as a village.
Okay, thanks. Trustee Corkery.
No report this week.
Okay. Village President's Report, I do not have much. I too was at Joyful Traditions, and it was really nice. It was a great evening. The weather was perfect, and kids loved Santa Claus. There was a line for several hours out there to see Santa Claus, so I think they all enjoyed that. This Saturday is electronic recycling between 9 and 12 at our Public Works Department on Homey Avenue. You must show a valid driver's license or ID to show that you live in Villa Park, but that is from 9 to 12. And see a lot of lights out this year on houses. The village looks great, and I'm sure Fund Commission's going to have a hard time picking out a couple of winners this year, but everything looks great, so keep up the good work. We'll go to our Village Manager's Report.
Just a couple items, had a really good couple of meetings related to the DuPage Managers and Mayors Conference. One of them was we had an opportunity to sit down with, and I should have written this down, Mr. Tapas from IDOT. I'm sorry? Yeah, George Tapas, thank you. And he is working to try and make IDOT more responsive to municipalities, which has been a problem in this district for some time. And myself and Director Guerra and Director McLaughlin went to DMMC to sit down and express to him some of our specific problems, but he pretty much could tell us what we were going to say before we got there in terms of the staff that were there and the sort of the general process problems that they have. So I thought that was, the fact that DMMC was able to set that up, I thought speaks to their abilities. We got an update on the Crisis Recovery Center that is looking to go online sometime in 2020, early 2025. At this time, they are not seeking any kind of funding directly from the villages, but they are, one of the things they're looking at is the 908 boards and how to make that work where some townships don't have 908 boards, making sure that the
988.
I'm sorry?
988. Is that 908?
It's 908 boards, right? 708, I'm sorry, so I was combining 708 boards, sorry, 708 boards. Yeah, that's why I should write everything down. But, you know, they're also going to continue the existing crisis response efforts, which have, and trying and learn from the villages how to respond better to that. And finally, I'm getting to 980.
Make sure you're.
Oh, yeah. They had an interesting, that sort of kind of bled into the discussion of 988. DuPage County Health is where those phone calls go, and they find your phone based on where you are by triangulation. And they are going to be launching some more information about that, and that would be probably an opportune time for us to update this. I know the topic of signage of 988 has come up. We were one of the first villages to get them out, and we were, you know, roundly congratulated, especially by particularly the DuPage Rail Safety Council. But we have the original signs only mentioned suicide prevention. They also, of course, are available for generally crisis intervention. So the new signage would have that. We will get to that within the next few months to get that done. But I also want to make sure that we're coordinating with DuPage County, because if they are coming out with some new language or some new ideas, I don't want to do it a third time, since, you know, no good deed goes unpunished, and by getting out there first, we now have a sign that isn't the most current language. So, anyway, we do care, we do want to get that out there. That's one of the reasons why Mike's staff got them out there so quickly, and we're looking forward to cooperating with them. And that is all I have.
Okay. On to item 20A is executive session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C6, the setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the public body, and C21 regarding discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under this act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by section 2.06. And I'd like to get a motion to retire to executive session, and then we will adjourn executive session and this meeting out of executive session. We have a motion. Trustee Patrick?
Mr. President, I'd like to make that motion.
You have a second? Trustee Kumar? Clerk Kornacki, please.
Trustee Alfano?
Yes.
Trustee Cordova?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Kumar?
Yes.
Trustee Corkery?
Yes.
Trustee Kosar?
Yes.
President Casella?
Yes. So we will go to executive session, and then we will adjourn out of there. So everyone have a good week, and we will see you back here a week from tonight.